Okay, if you look at emotional needs, the question I pose is, how are you managing your emotional health? Now, we all have emotional needs, and these are at the core of our being. They're hardwired in us. And if those needs are not met in a healthy way, you will see them met in an unhealthy way. Now, when you did your questionnaire, you had questions that apply to your strengths and questions that apply to your weaknesses. What we're going to see in this area very specifically are ways that we respond in our strengths as opposed to our weaknesses. So what we want to do is to identify what our weaknesses are and try to move them into our strengths so that we're living in our strengths. Remember that Jesus Christ had all the strengths of all the personalities and the weaknesses of none. So our aim is to move into the strengths, and in order to have emotional health and to communicate better with others, we're going to be living in our strengths. So let's take each one. Let's look at the Sanguine. Their basic desire in life is to have fun. They have specific needs. Let's look at what they are. First of all, they like attention. They have this great need to be normal in a sense and to blend in. A great fear is being ostracized for not fitting in. They like attention and want to be noticed. So many of the Sanguines will dress in ways that will attract attention. They will talk loudly to attract attention. You can think back to classrooms, those children that constantly were raising their hands or running around the room. They had to have attention, and they will do whatever it takes to get that attention. So what do you do if you have a Sanguine in your world? Then find a way to give them the attention that they need without feeding into any unhealthy behavior patterns. They also have this need for affection and approval. The Sanguine wants to be loved. This is the root of their touchy-feely body language. If you don't hug him or her, they're going to hug you because they have this need to touch. A secondary aspect of this desire for affection is approval. They don't want to do anything specific for approval. They just want people to love them. They just want them to laugh at them, to laugh at their stories and their jokes, to think they're funny, to think they're whatever, for whatever they've done, whatever they're doing, whatever they're being. They want people to notice and approve. And then they have this deep need for acceptance. The author of the book, Wired That Way, Marita Littauer, says it this way: most of us who are popular Sanguines have people in our lives who are always trying to fix us, shake us up, and make us better. But instead of always having people make plans for our lives, what we really need is for them to accept us as we are. There are Sanguines who've had people in their lives for their whole lives who have tried to change them by telling them, calm down, quiet down. Do you always have to be the center of attention? Do you always have to be so loud? Why can't you be like these other children who come and they're quiet and they don't have to make a scene? You're always making a scene. So what eventually happens if those children only hear those comments is eventually they will, A, try to do something else to get approval from other people, or they will adopt behavior of other personalities. I have a friend who is a Sanguine, and her husband is constantly trying to calm her down, and so this is his code for her. And that means to calm it down, slow it down, tone it down. And so she has developed a paranoia about it because it seems that is happening more often than not. That he is telling her to tone it down and calm it down. Now imagine being a child who's constantly told that, then they're not feeling as if they are living in their personality. They're not accepted for who they are. They're asked to be somebody else. So again, we have to walk that tightrope of helping people feel affirmed in their personality, but helping them to use that personality in positive, healthy ways. And the method of control for Sanguine is to control by charm and wit. You know how they will cuddle up to you and they will say, you're going to love what I have planned. because that's planting the seed that whatever they have planned is not what you're going to love, but they want you to love it. And so they're going to charm their way to get their way, and they're going to use their wit, and they're going to be funny, and they're going to make things happen. Now, this again can be a positive or a negative in their lives, depending on what they're trying to make happen. The greatest fears of the sanguine is being unpopular or ignored. They don't want to get old, be lonely and unattractive, or to run out of money. Now, a sanguine, remember, likes to be in style. They like to be fashionable. They dress in outlandish ways many times, and that means they have to spend money. And so they have great fear that they might lose that money. Also, status would be very important to the sanguine. They like the show. And so, again, depending on the healthiness of the sanguine, those could be some of the fears. Now, look at the choleric. Their basic desire is to have control. Their needs, the number one is loyalty. They are hardwired for loyalty among the troops. They want the support of people who are working for them, who are their friends, or who are in their family. They also like to have some control in those relationships. Now, these cholerics are natural leaders. They have a natural bent toward leadership. They will go to the wall for their team, whether it is their family, their friends, or in the workplace. A committee, they're going to go to the wall for that group of people. If they have been betrayed by someone in that group, then they will move away from that person. And the extent they move away depends on their healthy emotional aspect. Number one, if they are very immature in either their faith walk or their development, they will attack and attempt to destroy this person who has betrayed them, who's become loyal. If it is more mature or someone who is living in strengths, this person will try to see the other's point of view and will offer grace and resolution. And I hope what you see here is that the way we respond to many of these emotional issues and communication issues depends on our maturity and on our spiritual health as well. And so that loyalty is a key issue for that choleric. They also have this sense of control. They have to control some aspect of your life and their life. If you have a choleric in your world, find some area for them to play a role in controlling. It's always good to defer a decision to a choleric. Even if you've already made plans and you have a path you're going down, it's always good to ask, what do you think? What is your opinion? What do you prefer? So that they have this sense of control. If you go into a choleric, especially an unhealthy one, and you present the plan for the future, whatever it is, whether it's dinner that night or a vacation or retirement plans, if you tell them the plan, they're automatically going to close off from you. But if you give them an opportunity to share and to give some input, then you're much more likely to get the result that you want. Those who are mature will find worthy people to have verbal sparring with. In other words, if you have two healthy cholerics engaged in a debate, it can be very interesting and very exciting because they come to it with a maturity where they can see each other's viewpoints. It would be interesting to have two healthy cholerics debating politically, wouldn't it, if they were healthy? And you could hear some engaging conversation. If you have an immature choleric or one who is weak, they are going to look for somebody who has lesser ability or strength or skill than they do because they can wield power over that person. And so that's a caution to look for those cholerics, whether they are healthy or unhealthy, and then you'll know the kind of dynamics you will have in their conversations. They also like credit for good work. They are the worker bees of life. And if you don't believe it, just ask them, because they will tell you all that they have ever done. They have worked longer, faster, harder than anybody else. They're willing to do it all, but they need acknowledgement. They like to hear that you have noticed what all they have done. And if you don't recognize their efforts, they may not do your task for you any longer. So they have to be complimented. One thing that you might say, to some of these cholerics is, I don't know how you do it all. How do you get it done? And sometimes you have to choke those words out because they don't come easily. Praising somebody who knows it all and gets it all done. But so it will go a long way if you need to get something done. They have this real need for achievement. In fact, the choleric cannot live without achievement. They like to have things done. They have goals in life. They like to accomplish them. They go from one task to another, and they have a day that's filled with stuff. Now I'm going to describe a day in the life of a choleric, and you'll hear how it sounds. This person may have said something like, I woke up early, I ran 4 miles, I ate breakfast, I stopped at the dry cleaners on the way to work, I went to the bank and signed necessary papers, I had 5 meetings with new clients, I had a seminar during lunch, I dropped the car off for an oil change, and while I was there, I checked my emails and returned phone calls. I went back to the office and interviewed 2 people who were applying for a new position. Then I went to my son's tennis match. I stopped at the grocery store. I cooked spaghetti for the family. I did 2 loads of laundry, and then I read myself to sleep. Now that's the day in the life of a choleric. They can recite the details of their day because they had a goal in mind and they accomplished it. They checked off their list. And the Sanguine has done a lot too, because they're both very active and very busy people. But the Sanguine has mixed in so many people and done so many talkings and phone calls. They cannot trace all of their activities like the choleric can. They want to tell you what all they have done. They also don't have much tolerance for other people who don't get things done. They don't understand this idea of wasting time. Their to-do list is longer than anybody else's, and they may lash out at others who don't get things done at the same speed and with the same need that the choleric does. Many times they put too many things on the to-do list, and then the rest of the world suffers for that. Now, the method of control for a choleric is they will have threats of anger. They may pull this comment out. You remember what happened the last time you did this? It's about to happen again. So they're going to threaten to be angry. You can see it building in the way they speak to you. You can see it on their face. So you know they're moving into that mode. And what happens is that's how they control people. Because they will threaten to be angry, and people don't want that, so the others will acquiesce to whatever the choleric desires. Their fear is losing control of any aspect of their lives. So that could be their job, their family, their friends, their finances, becoming weak or incapacitated. It would be a sign of weakness for the choleric to be sick, because the choleric has things to do. So they do not want to admit when they're sick, or that they need somebody to help take care of them. They will go to work sick because it would be, they could then play the martyr role and show everyone else how they reacted to being sick. The melancholy. The melancholy has a desire for perfection, and these are the needs. Sensitivity. They have this need to be understood and supported. They need for people to be sensitive to their feelings. And it's sometimes hard to know how to respond to a melancholy because they go into this deep place in their insides. They contemplate and they dwell there. They live there in the recesses of their mind and their heart. And so it's hard to know what to do. So the best strategy I can give you is to ask them. I see you're hurting, you're suffering. What do you need from me? Ask them the question. Because what you've done then is you've acknowledged and you've been sensitive to them. They need support. Think of a bridge. If a melancholy is the bridge, they need a lot of support underneath that bridge. And that support comes from people, understanding them, encouraging them, providing for whatever need that they have. And when those needs begin to get knocked down, the bridge collapses. So that a melancholy who is hurt or feeling angry, feels betrayed, feels as if his world has crumbled around him. And that's when they go into the deep place. And so find a way to support them when people have let them down. They also need space. Now for some, it's space in the home. They have a favorite chair where they sit, and if mother's sitting in that chair, leave her alone. Or they go to the porch, or they go to the backyard, or they sit under a tree. But others have different quiet places. They may drive in their car. There may be someone who likes to take a motorcycle out and get out on the highway and be alone, or go fishing. They have to have space. See, the sanguine doesn't necessarily have to have space because they like people. So they don't necessarily have to have that time to withdraw. The melancholy also likes silence. They need quiet time. The sanguine is different in that regard because they like loud, they like noise. The melancholy likes quiet. And then their fear, they have a fear of making a mistake, of being a failure, because they have an ideal way to live, and when they don't measure up, then they're disappointed, and they feel as if they're disappointing others. They also have a fear of having to compromise their standards. They may say things like, "No one understands me," and that is fearful for them, not to be understood. And then let's look at the phlegmatic. The phlegmatic wants to have peace. So the need of the phlegmatic is peace and quiet. They are hardwired for peaceful, quiet surroundings. They want a sense of self-worth. And so they have a lifestyle that minimizes stress and maximizes leisure. Let's look at a baby who is a very laid-back, quiet baby, never fusses, never complains. When she begins to grow up, she is a very child with very simple needs. She likes to be at home. She has only a few friends. And then she has perhaps a parent who sees that as a child who is friendless. And so the parent tries to get a lot of friends, make sure that this child is included in all the parties, wants to have lots of people over and arrange play dates. And the child really just wants to be alone with one or two people, and that's the comfort zone for them. So what often happens is their personality is misunderstood, and people who like to have people around them try to change this personality. And it sets off years sometimes of parents trying to change the way the child is. Now we also have to consider the fact that this child wants peace and quiet and wants to be left alone sometimes because they do not want to get engaged and they do not want to do things, so they can turn into a lazy child. So you have to, again, balance both of those. They have a need for this feeling of self-worth because they're not the doers that some of these other personalities are. Let me describe a day in the life of these children. The sanguine comes home from school and says, "I have to be the most popular child in school. I got elected most popular. They will not even have a party without inviting me." And the choleric comes home from school and says, "The teacher made me monitor today, or I got to be the line leader." That's a sense of accomplishment for that child. The melancholy child gets up in the morning when the alarm goes off, makes his bed, goes off to school, comes home, does the homework immediately, quietly in the room. Everything is just done down to the finest detail. And then the phlegmatic didn't make her bed, didn't get elected anything during the school day, didn't clean up the toys, but comes home from school and just wants to relax and be in the home and to be comfortable. And so what we find we need to do is to help those children and these adults to feel worthy for who they are and not for the things that they have done. They have a need for a lack of stress in their lives. This person does not want to cause trouble or draw attention. And so when a steak is ordered and is not served as ordered, it is not a big deal. They are okay with that. They're comfortable with that. Even though the other personalities at the table are wanting to remedy that quickly, they are not comfortable with that. They have this real need for respect that looks different from the other personalities. We all have a desire for respect, but for them it's a little different. The choleric has gotten rewards and recognitions, but the phlegmatic just wants to be respected for who he is and how he can quietly achieve whatever is necessary. Now, their method of control is procrastination, because what they know is that if they just wait long enough, somebody else will do it. Somebody else will decide and make a decision about where they're going to eat or what they're going to do for vacation or whatever choice needs to be made. If they wait it out, somebody else will do it. And that's a source of frustration in relationships. Their fear is being pressured to work all the time, being left holding the bag, and having to face conflict that appears to them overwhelming. So those are the emotional needs of them. If you look at the next slide, I have some descriptions of the things that I shared with you. There are a couple of new things on here that was not presented in the other material. The Sanguine, as for stress relief, they might go shopping or have a party or eat to cheer themselves up or reward themselves. Each personality has an eating section also that I'm not going to go into, but that is one of the things with the Sanguine. Their energy is a very high, frenetic pace. They sometimes go so hard and then are exhausted and have a spell where they just can't function. They are energized by people. At the end of the day, that's where they've gotten their energy. The Choleric. Look at the stress relief. They just work harder. That's how they have a lot on their plate, so they just continue to work harder. Or they will exercise more. And they will often stay away from unyielding situations. In other words, if they can't win and they know it, they don't go there. Their energy level is the highest energy of all. They need little rest, and they thrive on people to control. And then look down at the Melancholy. Their stress relief is they will withdraw. They will take to the bed. And sometimes they will read, study, meditate, and prayer, because those are internal things, and that's the comfort zone for the Melancholy. And their energy level is low. They move slowly, and they don't feel the need to move on at a quick pace. The Phlegmatic, their stress level is to relieve it, they will turn on the TV and escape. They will eat and sleep, and they will tune out life in whatever way they tune out life. Their energy level is the lowest of all of them, and they need, see, that's not showing up on the slide, is it? They need much when it comes to rest and relaxation. They have to have their downtime. Now, recognizing and fulfilling our needs, a suggestion is to make a list of the emotional needs of a significant person in your life and figure out what strategies you can use to help them and to help yourself to communicate to that person. This is a good strategy if you have a relationship that is struggling emotionally or in communication. And then what we really need to do is to recognize our own emotional needs. So if we go back and look at where we may have some emotional struggles and figure out how to live in the strengths of our personality instead of giving way to the weaknesses. So that concludes the portion on emotional needs. And so what I'm going to do now is to open it up for questions and see if you have any questions or comments, and then it will be time to go.